Hi there, welcome to Knitting by the Bay. My name is Christy and this is my making podcast where I talk mostly about knitting, but sometimes other crafts that I might be into at the moment. Today's episode is going to be a regular podcast style episode where I wanted to share with you 2 of my finished objects as well as talk about 4 of the whips that I have on the needles right now. So let's start off with what I'm wearing. This is the Felix pullover and it's a pattern by Amy Christoffers. And this one I knit using Barocco Vintage in the color Rye, held together with Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair in the color Cloud, I believe. I'm going to look at my notes here. I have my computer here so that I can look at all the notes for my projects that I've got going on right now. This is an Aran weight pattern and you knit it on US 10 or 6mm needles. And it's a really beautiful basic sort of sweater, but it just has this lovely lace detail on the raglan sleeves. It's so beautiful, so wearable. You can tuck it in a little or, have it out. I like to tuck it in a bit. And yeah, I love this sweater. The one thing that I don't love so much about this sweater is for some reason it's extremely itchy. And I don't really know why because the Barocco vintage yarn, I believe, is, it's part acrylic. It's 52% acrylic and 40% wool. So I don't really know why I find it so prickly. And I don't really think that it's the Knitting for Olive mohair because I can wear that in other sweaters and it doesn't bother me. So I'm not really sure why. It is a little bit prickly. I'm wearing it today without a shirt underneath, and I probably should wear a shirt underneath it because I really do love this sweater and I don't really wear it a ton. But now that I'm wearing it today, I'm looking at it and I'm like, yeah, I think I'm gonna start wearing this one a little more often. Okay, and so now let's get into a couple of my finished items. The first one I don't have with me because I just realized that my husband took it with him to work today. And so I will insert a picture of what it looks like. I think he's actually gone away for work for a couple nights, so I won't be able to get the picture in time for this video to come out. But I do have a picture of it, almost when it was almost finished. So hopefully that will be okay. But anyway, this is the 2x2 hat, and it is a free pattern, which is awesome, by Anne Gagnon. And it is a worsted weight hat pattern that is knit in a 2x2 rib. Super basic, simple, easy to understand pattern. Amazing that it's free. I really liked this one, and he really liked it. So yeah, I think it's just a very good basic ribbed hat pattern. It comes in only one size because the ribbing is, stretchy, so it fits, all different sizes of heads. And then you just knit it to the length that you want. If you want a really thick brim on it or just a little brim, I ended up making it a little bit too long because my husband had told me that he really likes to have a smaller brim on the hat, and I kept knitting it thinking this isn't long enough, it's not long enough. And then when I finished decreasing for the crown of the hat, it was a lot longer than what I had wanted it to be. But I told him, just like fold it over, you have to have a thicker brim on this one, and it'll be a hat to wear to keep you like super warm. So I knit this hat using Lion Brand Fisherman's wool in the color Brown Heather. And I had a bunch of this yarn left over from when I knit the home cardigan by Caidree a few months ago. So I decided, I went on Ravelry and I just started looking for projects using this yarn, and this one came up. So I thought it was the perfect pattern to use that yarn for. And my second finished object is also another accessory for my husband. I knit him these socks. These again are the Colorblocked socks pattern by Summer Lee, which I've made a few pairs of already, but I really love it. I love the fact that it's got ribbing just on the top and then stockinette on the bottom. I think it's really fun to knit, super easy pattern to understand, and yeah, a lot of fun to do. So I chose the Patons Kroy sock yarn in the colors Gentry Gray for the cuff, heel, and toes, and then this blue raspberry for the rest of the sock. And I really love how this blue raspberry stripes up, because it's not just solid stripes, it has the color going into the next color of stripe. So yeah, it's not just a solid plain color there. And yeah, it was really fun to knit and watch the stripes appear. I had a little issue where I ran out of yarn. So you can probably tell that the bottom of this sock is a different color than this one. It's slightly a lighter blue. And then also the speckling in it is much less and much different. So I ended up, yeah, running out of this yarn, but I had another color like this sort of bluey aqua color left in my stash. And so I just used that, and I felt like it was close enough of a match. And then I just used a bit of this navy blue that I had left and just kind of tried to speckle it in through the blue. It's not the greatest, but I just didn't want it to be a solid blue here, and then this one be speckled with different color. So yeah, I tried to do that, and I think when he's walking around in them, nobody would ever notice that. So I think it's okay. He definitely doesn't care. So yeah, another pair of Colorblocked socks is done. And then so I cast on another pair of them, and I am using, again, the Patons Kroy sock yarn. And I really like this yarn. It's a fingering weight yarn, but it makes it a thicker, rougher sort of textured sock, which I really like. I don't like the feeling of a super soft sock. I feel like sometimes it stretches out and gets a little sloppy looking. It's also like super slippery on the floor. So yeah, I really like this sock yarn. I think this is the first time I've used it, so definitely will make many more. So I'm using this one, which I can't remember the color of, and I've already thrown away the ball band, so I apologize about that, but it's yeah, a taupey sort of brown, light brown color. And then I'm using the Gentry gray that I have left over from these socks. I have another ball of this as well. So the main part of the sock is going to be this, and then the cuff and the toe is going to be this contrasting color, and I'm going to keep the heel in the main color instead of doing a contrasting color for that. So this is what I have done so far, very little bit. And I love having a pair of socks to knit on when I'm using my treadmill, when I'm walking on it, because yeah, I think it's a lot of fun to knit the sock, and I listen to an audiobook and I get a pair of socks done at the same time that I'm exercising. So yeah, I like to call it to my husband, it's I call it walk and sock. And so yeah, what was I gonna say? I been hearing a lot of people have been reading the book Atomic Habits, and I don't know who that's by, but in the book, apparently the author talks about habit stacking, and how if you want to do a new habit, like say start walking more, then you stack it with another habit that you wanted to do. So if you go for a walk, and then every day you go for a walk, you come in and you might read a chapter of a book or something like that. Whatever your new habit is that you want to start doing. So, or you can like put them all together. So I like this where I'm getting exercise, I am listening to a book, and I'm also making a pair of socks at the same time. So yeah, so that's what I've got done so far. And I think that's it. That's it for my finished objects. Now I want to talk about all my works in progress, because I think I have 4 of them. Oh, actually, I should also mention I really enjoyed making my husband's hat. So I have decided to cast on another one, and I'm making this either for myself, or if my son likes it, then he can have it. But I'm going to make another one of those 2x2 hats out of this. And this is Cascades 220 Superwash in the color 904, which is called Colonial Blue Heather. And yeah, I just had this one left over in my stash, so I thought that would be perfect. My son loves blue, so he'll probably want it, but we'll see. And yeah, I love to have these hats to work on when I go to watch my son do karate or his jujitsu. And yeah, just work on something very simple while we're watching that. And normally, like, I'm the only one knitting. I've never ever been to, like, we used to go watch my stepson's hockey all the time. I was the only one there knitting ever. And that was years and years of going to watch him play. And now, like with my son, any sports event or anything, I'm the only one knitting. And I still kind of feel a little uncomfortable knitting in public, but I do it anyway. But anyway, this time now, with his new like karate that he's into, there's another mom there that is knitting as well. So I chatted with her a bit about what she was making. She was working on these mitts, and they couldn't really tell exactly how the pattern was, but it was sort of like a, a mitt that had a round part here so that you could put like a beer in your hand. Like if you were like at a campfire outside, it was cold, you had these mitts on and you could have a drink in your hand. That's kind of a cute idea. She's making them for her friend. I guess it's her birthday coming up. So yeah, and then also there was um, this statue at the dojo of on the sensei's desk of him like in his karate gi, made all out of crochet, so like an amigurumi statue of the sensei, and he had all these posable arms and everything. It was super cute, and I'm assuming, I didn't ask her, but I'm assuming that she was the one that made that, because he said at a parent there of one of the kids had made it for him. And it was so cute because she had done all the patches on the uniform with their logo, which was like a dragon and everything, like so much detail into it. It was amazing. So that was really cool. And yeah, so now I've got another hat that I'm going to probably cast this on. He hasn't had any karate all week because we've had a lot of snow. I mean, a lot of snow, and I love snow, but I'm already at the point now that I'm like, this is enough snow. When we're shoveling, there's nowhere to put the snow because the snowbanks are like 5 feet, 6 feet tall. So we're trying to like lift the snow up on top of that. It's really hard. The past 2 years, we've only been here, I guess this is our third winter. So the past 2 winters, we didn't have a ton of snow. And so it wasn't a big deal to be shoveling the driveway. And we ended up buying a snowblower, but it's not a great one. And so it's more trouble to get that out. You have to plug it in. It's not great. So we ended up just shoveling instead. So I think next year we're going to need to invest in an actual good gas-powered snowblower. If we're, living in the snow belt, we're going to need that. So yeah, why was I saying this? Oh yeah, so he hasn't been to karate because there's been so many snow days at school, and if there's a snow day at school, then they close the dojo. So he hasn't been able to go. So I haven't been able to do any knitting on my new hat. Okay, so my next work in progress is called the Soho Blouse, and this is a pattern by Caidree. And I had tried to knit this one, or I was working on this one last year, and I decided I didn't really like my yarn choice, so I frogged it. But then I just recently, my husband gave me a gift certificate for our local knitting store, and she doesn't really have a lot of sweater quantity wools there. She just has smaller quantities if you want to make like accessories and stuff like that. But she does have this Drops Air, which she keeps a lot of in stock. And I had never knit with this one before because I know that it is, well, here, it's 65% alpaca, 28% nylon, and 7% wool. And I can't wear alpaca. I've made a couple different projects in the past using it, and it was super, super prickly. Like, not like mohair prickly to me, but really, really prickly. I cannot wear it. So I thought like I just had to steer clear of this one because I thought it was going to be super uncomfortable. But I went into her store to use my gift certificate. She had a whole bunch of these, and I just loved this color so much. So I held it up to my neck and it doesn't bother me at all. So I guess it's probably because of the nylon that's in it that, it's not, doesn't prickle. So yeah, that's exciting because I really liked this yarn. It's super fluffy. It's, I guess, what is it? Okay, so yeah, it says that the fibers of the baby alpaca and merino wool are blown into a tube together. So it makes this like really fluffy wool. So it's kind of like using a wool together with a mohair in a way, because you get that softness and the fluffy look to it. But it's just one yarn and it's actually very inexpensive. So yeah, I decided to use this wool and cast on the Soho blouse again. And now I've got it all tangled up. But this is a really beautiful oversized V-neck blouse or sweater. And it's what I've got so far. Yeah, so I've just recently joined it in the round and I'm just working on the body of the sweater now. It is a garter stitch sweater, which I thought would look really cute with this fluffy yarn. And yeah, I'm really liking the way it turned out. So when the construction of this blouse is you cast on stitches for the back, and then you you put markers for where the raglan sleeves are, and then you do increases in the front and back of those markers. So you're knitting flat for a very long time until you join here down at the V-neck. So knitting garter stitch flat is just knitting the entire time on both sides. And then once you join it in the round after the V-neck, in order to do garter stitch in the round, you're doing 1 row knits, 1 row purling. So like you would do stockinette stitch flat. And then you create this faux seam type of thing that runs down here, and then it runs down the side of the sweater as well. I don't know if you can see that. Yeah, and so how you do that is just by slip stitching the one stitch before and the one stitch after the marker there. So it's a really fun pattern to do. It does feel like you are never ending increasing stitches until you get down, because it's a very deep V. And that's why I chose this sweater. I wanted it to be, didn't want a little, I don't really look great in a little V-neck. I like a very deep V-neck. So this looked like the perfect sweater for that. And then I'm knitting it with the recommended ease, which is, I normally don't do things with a lot of ease. I like things a little bit more fitted, but I decided with this one, I really wanted that sort of oversized, slouchy, drapey sort of look. Yeah, I can't find the recommended ease on there, but anyway, I'm doing it a little bit more than I normally would. And I'm also making a size large, and normally I do a size medium, but I really wanted this to be like a really oversized, nice, easy wearing sweater. So that's what I have so far, and I think that's all I wanted to say about that one. Okay, so my next work in progress is one that you guys have seen already a bunch of times, and you'll probably continue to see this for a while because it's taking me quite a long time to make. And that is my Radmere cardigan for my husband. So this is now one of the front pieces, and it is basically the same. You're doing a lot of the same cable charts, except for I think 1 or 2 charts is left out. So it does work up a lot faster than working across the back, the whole length of the back, or the width of the back. But I'm gonna have to do 2 of these. And I really need to be in the right headspace to work on this. And a lot of the time lately I haven't been, and I've also got a lot of other projects that I'm more excited about knitting, just because this one I really have to concentrate on it, and I have to get out have my counter on my phone, and I have the chart there and all of that. So I have to make sure I'm set up to work on this for a while. And so yeah, I've got that much done so far. I also am having a little bit of trouble in my hand, and that's why I keep taking breaks from this one. So I think it's a lot to do with the cable knitting that's affecting my hand in this part, like in the thumb joint here. Because, yeah, when I work on this for a while, it starts to hurt in there, and then it causes a lot of numbness in my hand. And yeah, especially when I'm sleeping too. Like if I've been working on this a lot during the day, then that night this hand will get very numb at night, because I'm also a side sleeper, so I'll sleep on my hand a lot of the time without even like knowing that I'm doing it, and then it wakes me up in the middle of the night because it's completely numb. So I think I've got a bit of carpal tunnel going on in there. And so I purchased one of those braces, and it says to wear it at nighttime, but it's it's too bulky. It's kind of uncomfortable that I can't sleep very well with it on, so I haven't been wearing it. So yeah, when I'm knitting on this, I need to take a lot of breaks, which I've been doing. So I don't have a ton of progress on it, but I think the last time I showed it, I just finished the back maybe. So yeah, I think it's okay. All right, so that's it for the Radmere. I have another new cast on, and this one I'm super excited about, and that's why I've kind of put that Radmere aside too, and I've just been working on this one a lot. And this is a pattern by Petite knit, and it's called the Celeste sweater. And I saw this, well, I've seen this pattern for a while. I've seen it on a couple of podcasts. Handmade by Florence was talking about hers, and I really like the colors that she chose for hers. And then also Casey on Young Folk Knits was talking about hers, that it's her like absolute most favorite sweater that she's knit and favorite sweater to wear. And then so I started looking into it more and looking at all of the projects on Ravelry, and I found one that I like fell in love with the colors in it. So I started looking at this person's project and looking at the colors and trying to figure out what colors she used for hers. And then I flipped through the pictures, and she had actually uploaded her color chart, which was amazing, like so nice. So I wrote to her and was like, that's absolutely beautiful. I like, thank you for uploading the chart. I really want to make one like yours. And she wrote back saying like, thanks so much. And she's like, enjoy the chart or whatever. So yeah, I decided to pick up the exact same colors that she used in hers. And I am using Pure Gynt by Sandnes Garn. And I'm going to put up a list of all the colors instead of reading them out to you, so you can see the ones that, she used and that inspired me to make mine. So here is my progress so far. Yeah, it's kind of hard to show you. I'm sorry, it's still on the needles and everything. And this is what I've got done so far. And I'm about, I think, 3 or 4 rows from finishing the color work on it. And it's been so much fun to do. It's like addictive. I can't put this down. So I think I cast it on maybe on Saturday, and it's now Tuesday today, and I've already finished all of this. So I'm, yeah, super excited about it. So what else did I want to say? I actually did the Italian cast on, which she recommends in her pattern, and a lot of the time I will just do a regular long tail cast on, but I decided I really wanted to make this one look as good as I could. So I did that Italian cast on the collar, and I'm happy that I did. So now that means I'm going to be doing the Italian bind off for the hem and the cuffs as well. And then one thing she says, which is unusual, or I haven't come across it before, is when you're increasing for the yoke here after you've done the mock neck, she tells you to do your increases as a yarn over, and then you will knit through the back loop. And she says you knit through the back loop to avoid getting holes. But I have holes all along here. And I did that. I knit through the back loop. And so I'm not really sure what I did wrong there. Yeah, so when on the first row you're doing your yarn overs, and then when you go to knit the next row or the next round, you're going to knit that yarn over through the back loop, which I did, and it still has holes. And then I looked at a whole bunch of projects because I wasn't sure, was it something that I did wrong, or what. So I looked at a whole bunch of the projects on Ravelry and zoomed in on it, and I do see a lot of people have those holes. So is that, have I done something wrong, or is that the intended look? Either way, it doesn't bother me. Like, I think it looks fine. But I'm just curious if there's something that I should do differently when increasing with the yarn over like that. And yeah, that is it. So what I really liked about this, the project that the other Ravelry user did, was that, like in Petite Knit sample, and I'll put a picture up of what hers looks like. You use this is the main color. So the mock neck will be in the main color, and then the body of the sweater and the sleeves are in this same color as well. So the other Ravelry knitter, she did it differently, where she used this color for the mock neck, and then she has the dark charcoal color, which is here, as the body and the sleeves. And I really liked that look. So I'm excited to start working once I separate for sleeves and start working with that charcoal yarn for the rest of the body. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this one in my wardrobe. One thing I can say, because I've used pure Gynt a couple times before, but only for mittens, and they were fine on my hands. But when I put the collar up to my neck, I do find it very prickly and scratchy. And I have heard that before. It's definitely a more rustic yarn, but I definitely don't see myself wearing this without something underneath. So I do have a mock neck turtleneck like shirt. So I will be definitely wearing that underneath this, I think. But I do like the way it knits up, and I like the rustic feel of it. It's just having a mock neck on my neck, I think will drive me crazy after a while. So yeah. Other than that, I'm loving this pattern so much. I can't wait to have this one finished. So that is everything for my knitting content. Now I just kind of wanted to talk about some of the books I've been reading recently, some of the TV shows that I've been watching. And I'm going to have a little sip of water here. So the first book that I wanted to talk about that I just finished recently is The Golden Compass, and this is a book by Philip Pullman. And it was written a while ago. I think I read 1994, like sometime in the 90s. And there's also a movie out as well. And this is a fantasy book. I really, really, really enjoyed this book. I listened to the audiobook, and it was such a good production of this book, because they have the author reading it, and then any of the speaking parts are all done by different voice actors. And it makes you feel like you're listening to like one of those mystery theater, like radio things that they used to have a long time ago, which I love listening to as well. But it was so great. It just like really kept your interest. So I decided I wanted to start listening to the second one, which is called The Subtle Knife. So I've borrowed that one from my library to listen to. Well, I usually do it while I'm like walking on the treadmill, like I said before, or if I'm doing like housework or something, then I'll just put that book on at the same time. So yeah, I'm really enjoying this one as well too. Second book that I am not quite, I think I'm about 35% through this one, is the one that I talked about on my last podcast, and it is The Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. And this book is really, really popular right now, and I think it's like one of the top selling books right now as well. I was just listening to the radio this morning while I was doing some like housework, and they had people on talking about this. So I had to quickly go and turn it off, because the third book in the series just came out. So I didn't want any spoilers for this, because this is the first in the series. And it's a fantasy book as well, about a college of dragon riders. So the main character in it is just starting at this college. She's learning how to fight other students and stuff, and then they have to bond with a dragon, and then they're going to be like in battle with these dragons or whatever. Anyway, I don't want to give too much of it away, and I'm also really terrible at explaining stories. So anyway, I'm about that much through it now, so I think it's about 35% through. So I will be completely honest about how I feel about this book, or how I've been feeling so far about this book. And so I went to my bookstore and I asked the woman that works there, that I told her that I want to start getting into some fantasy books. And so she immediately picked this off the shelf and was like, you have to read it. Everybody else in the store, like the owner, another customer, was like, oh my God, it's so good, so good. So I said, okay, I'm gonna give it a chance. And you know what? Like the beginning of this book, up until maybe 25% of the beginning of this book, I wasn't sure how I felt about it, because I'm not really sure what genre this book is aimed towards. And, to me, reading it, it kind of felt like a bit of a YA novel. And I've never been really into any YA books before. So I'm not really sure who it's aimed towards. And I guess it really doesn't matter. Anyone can read it. Doesn't matter the age group or whatever. But when I was in the store talking with the owner and stuff, she was saying how she loved it. She's probably around my age. Her mother-in-law loved it, who's in her 80s, and her daughter, who's 20, loved it as well. So it's like for a whole range of ages. So yeah, I don't know. And I kind of felt like, because it's a whole dynamic of these students in a college and stuff. And I guess there's supposed to be a lot of romance in it as well. It's supposed to be a little bit spicy. That's what they told me at the bookstore. And I think they were talking about it on the radio before I turned it off, that it's a fantasy romance. And I forget what they called that, what genre they've called that now. Romantasy? Romantasy. It's supposed to be a romantasy book, which I'm not either. I'm not really into romance novels either. The more that I'm reading it now, the last few days, I am really getting into the story a lot more. It's very, there's a lot of, like, it's very action packed. There's a lot going on. It's good. I'm really liking it now. So I'm actually thinking that I will probably pick up the second book in the series as well. We'll see if I still continue to like it. But on the radio program today, they were talking about the third book and how the third book is like really, really good. Apparently, there's a lot more world building going on in that book. It sounded, I don't know, it sounds interesting. So yeah, I do actually recommend this book a lot. I'm really enjoying this. I think just don't take it too seriously, but then again, it's a fantasy book, so it's not really meant to be a serious book or anything. But yeah, I'm enjoying this one. So, okay, so now I want to talk about some of the shows that I'm watching. So just recently, the new season of All Creatures Great and Small came out, so I'm really enjoying that. I think there's 3 episodes out now, and I just finished the second one. So if you haven't watched that before, that's about this vet in this small little town, and just all the relationships with all the people in the town, and their either pets or their farm animals. And then there's also a ton of beautiful knitwear, a lot of like lovely Fair Isle vests and stuff like that. They wear a lot of like really, really nice sweaters and stuff. So it's very inspiring in that way. So the other show that I've been watching lately is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me, because it's not really the type of show that I normally gravitate towards. But that is Virgin River. And I feel like this show is a little bit like a Hallmark movie in a way. It's very cheesy sometimes, I feel like. And they're also trying to like teach you a lesson or something when you're watching it. But I do like it anyway, and I find it very like heartwarming. The scenery is absolutely beautiful. And so I save this show for when I'm running on the treadmill, and I just watch it then. I don't watch it any other time. And so it helps me to encourage me to get on the treadmill because I don't always want to do that. So yeah, that's what I've been watching recently. So I think that is everything that I wanted to share with you guys today. I will be back again next week. I'm hoping to put together a video about my 2025 knitting plans. I just recently did a sewing plans video, but this is going to be for all of my knitting plans that I'm dreaming of making for 2025. So yeah, hopefully you'll find some inspiration from that video as well. So anyway, thank you so much for watching today. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, and only if you want to, please consider subscribing to my channel. It helps YouTube to know who to share my videos with other crafty people like you and I. And until next week, happy crafting, everyone. Bye.